Okay, in this session we will cover basic introduction part to the ASA firewall. So first of all, let's discuss about firewall. What is firewall? Basically, it is a device that you can place in between trusted and untrusted network. Your public internet will be considered as untrusted, and inside your organization will be considered as trusted. And also it is designed to prevent unauthorized access between or among zones, which means it blocks unwanted traffic and permit wanted traffic. So next thing, let's come to the firewall types. There are two types of firewall you can see nowadays. One is host-based firewall, other one is network-based firewall. Host-based firewall, it is software firewall. A network-based firewall, it is combination of software and hardware. You can see, as you can see in the picture, it is individual firewall, which means your software firewall, and this will be considered as network-based firewall. So the best example for the host-based firewall are Windows PCs. That's what here I have mentioned. So Windows PC normally pre-packaged with Windows software firewall, and it is used to protect the individual system. Similarly, you can see third-party softwares as well, like for example Zone Alarm. This is one of the third-party software-based firewall. So this software-based firewall will not protect the entire network. As you can see here, it will protect the individual system only. So either you can see it in the client PCs like Windows 8 or Windows 7 or Windows 10, but network based firewall always will protect entire network. So this network based firewall, it is combination of software and hardware. You can prevent more vulnerabilities by using network firewall. You can use it as a barrier among networks, which means between your trusted and untrusted network. So often used between LAN and WAN. Okay, so because on the internet there might be malicious user try to penetrate your organization network, and they will collapse your network in case if you don't have any of the network firewall, right? So this firewall you can find from multiple vendors, not only Cisco, even you can see SonicWall, Palo Alto and Fortinet and pfSense and etc. However, the concept is same from all vendors. I mean, you can use any of the vendor product to protect your network. Okay, here especially I will discuss about ASA. ASA stands for Adaptive Security Appliance. It is basically a multi-purpose firewall appliance from Cisco perspective, which means that it supports many additional features besides packet filtering. So when you come to the subject of firewall, it is basically doing packet filtering. So beside packet filtering, the Cisco ASA also providing some additional feature. Few of them: stateful filtering, application inspection, DHCP, VPN, AAA, routing, net high availability. These features briefly I will discuss with you later on. Okay, here I have taken one specific ASA model as an example, the model number 5510. This is front view and this is back view of the ASA model, right? So if you come to back view, and through this we can provide the power to the ASA. This is power on off switch, and through this port you can access the ASA using terminal, and you can insert flash card over here, and these are the ports that you will assign to the security zone. So I will come to security zone next, and this is management interface that you can manage your ASA through this port. Okay, next thing, security zone. When you work with firewall, you have to assign the firewall interfaces to the specific zone, as you can see in the picture, in order to do the firewall implementation. The software available in Cisco ASA by default will identify two specific zones. Those are inside and outside. Inside network by default will be given with the security level of 100, and outside will be given with the security level of 0. So one thing you remember, the traffic from higher security level to lower security level is permitted, and from lower security level to higher security level is denied. From LAN to WAN permitted, and from WAN to LAN denied, because this is lower security level, this is higher security level. Okay, our LAN always trusted network, and which would have higher security level, and WAN is untrusted network, which would have lower security level. If you want to make an exception and permit a traffic from WAN to LAN, and you can accomplish this one by using technique called access list. Most companies will have one or more server that should be reachable from internet, right? So it can be web server or mail server, that you can place those server in DMZ. DMZ stands for demilitarized zone, instead of placing those server in the inside network. So demilitarized zone normally we will use in order to keep the server, those servers need to be accessible from the internet, right? So if we keep those server here in DMZ zone, even if those servers get compromised, still the setup is secured, because it will not affect the inside network. This is in separate zone called demilitarized. So security zone will have security level. So according to the security level and which direction the traffic is permitted, I will explain to you. So from LAN to WAN permitted, from WAN to LAN denied, and from outside to, which means from your internet to DMZ, by default denied, because this is higher security level, this is 0 security level, and from inside to DMZ allowed, and from DMZ to inside denied. Okay, so this direction you must understand, this is decided based on security level only. And if you want to make an exception, which means you want to allow the packet from internet to DMZ zone, specifically you need to create an access list over here, right? Next firewall feature, first one, packet filtering. So already we see about packet filtering. It is one of the basic technique that you can see in every vendor specific firewall product, not only in Cisco ASA, even in other vendor specific product also. So this packet filtering normally will work with the help of access list in certain rule, like source and destination IP addresses and protocol and port number, right? It's working on network layer of the OSI model, right? So if you come to OSI model, there are 7 layers available. In third layer it will work, and it's working with the help of standard and extended access list. Okay, so as you can see here, normally the packet from internet to inside not allowed, right? Internet to inside not allowed, and similarly from internet to DMZ also not allowed. This way also not allowed, because lower security level, this is higher security level. But if you keep some server over here, and if you want to access this server from the internet, if you want users need to access this server from internet, then you will make an exception with the help of access list with certain rule: source and destination IP, port number and protocol, right? So if the traffic is coming to this specific web server IP address, and if it is coming to this specific port number and protocol, then allow the traffic to pass the ASA firewall and get into the DMZ, right? So this is what packet filtering, right? Packet filtering you can see not only in firewall, even in routers also you can see packet filtering. That's what the basic access list, right? Okay, one of the similarity between router and firewall, they both use access list to filter traffic based on source, destination addresses and port number. The entries matches in the access list, then they permit or drop the packet, right? But the difference is statefulness. Okay, let's say there is a user called John and he wants to get yahoo.com website, right? So when he searches yahoo.com website, the traffic will hit the ASA firewall initially, and firewall will maintain something called session table. So before firewall forward that traffic to yahoo.com website, it will put an entry in session table. That way when the same traffic return back, the firewall will look up the session table instead of access list. So this is what stateful filtering. But routers will not work that way. Each time the packet crossing the router will check the access list instead of maintaining the session table. So there is no any session table in the router. Okay, most firewalls support some sort of packet inspection. As you can see here, the packet filtering I talked with you regarding packet filtering, it can check the source and destination addresses as well as the port number. So it will work in third layer of the OSI model. But the application inspection, packet inspection, means it can inspect up to 7th layer of the OSI model, right? So it can look up the application data, what kind of data it is, and even the payload also it can look up. According to that, it can block any packets that contains worms and viruses, right? So this application inspection feature, it is one of the good feature that you can see in Cisco ASA Firewall nowadays, right? Next thing is DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. So DHCP, the job of DHCP, it will issue the network information dynamically over the network to the devices in your organization. So there is no manual intervention. So it will provide IP information, default gateway, DNS server IP, and domain names. Those kind of information will be provided by DHCP. Right, so but big companies, they're never going to use their firewall as a DHCP server. Instead they will use third party, which means Microsoft server operating system they can use as a DHCP server, like server 2012, 2016 example, or either they can use the Cisco router or it can be multi-layer switches, right? So they can use those kind of thing. So that's what DHCP. Right, next thing, VPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. So basically it allows computers and networks connect each other securely over the network, and it is server client technology. What I mean by this firewall, our Cisco ASA firewall can act as a VPN server as well, right? So any one of the person sitting in the internet, if they want to access the any file or folder from the file server, or either if they want to access web server inside the organization from the internet, instead of accessing the data with the plain text file format, what they can do, that communication will happen with the encrypted format. So this VPN, how it will work, let's assume this is our head office, right? This is your branch office. So this kind of VPN will be called as site-to-site VPN. Basically the tunnel will be created in between these two offices, right? So they have to have two registered public IP address in order to do that. So this side also firewall would be here, and other branch office also you would have firewall, right? So once they create the VPN tunnel, whatever the communication will happen, which means if they want to access any of the data transmission will happen with the encrypted format, not in the plain text file format. That's what it is, very secure, right? So let's say there is a sophisticated hacker over here, sitting over here, and if that hacker detect this tunnel, even if they grab the data, still that data is encrypted, so they cannot do anything with that data. So that's what the very importance of VPN, right? So you no need to expense extra money for the WAN connectivity. Instead you can use the existing internet. So this is site-to-site VPN. Next, remote access VPN. As we see in previous picture, site-to-site VPN basically will create the VPN connectivity between or among corporate offices. But here the setup is bit different. Let's say for example, here you can see your corporate office and there is a user somewhere on the internet, and this user want to access some resources from corporate office. What this user can do, he can use a software called Cisco VPN client in order to access the resources from corporate office. So this is just like this user sitting inside the office. So this is what remote access VPN. So this will not create the VPN connectivity between offices. Instead, it will be useful for the teleworker or traveling employees. AAA is server-based centralized authentication method. So you can use your firewall as AAA server. So what it will do, it will manage username and password for every user in your organization. With that username and password, they can access the devices like routers and switches. So instead of local use authentication method, they introduced the server-based centralized authentication method, right? So this one also we can use in your firewall, Cisco ASA Firewall. Nowadays you can find a certain number of routing protocol in ASA Firewall as well, like EIGRP, OSPF. Network address translation. In order to communicate in the internet, at least you have to have one registered public IP address in your organization. As you know, private IP addresses are not routable on the internet. So the main job of network address translation is it will translate the private IP address into public IP address. When you come to network address translation, there are three types you can see. The first one, net static, second dynamic, third port address translation. Static NAT, this is one-to-one mapping option in network address translation. So let's say if you have 100 different devices in your company, for all 100 different devices, you need to purchase individual public IP addresses in your environment. So let's say if you have two here, for all two computer you need to purchase different public IP address. So this is what static NAT. Again, it is not usable nowadays because it will create lot of cost in your companies. Dynamic NAT. Let's say for example, in your company if you have 1000 user, and if this user want to search internet, all user cannot access the internet at the same time. This is based on number of registered public IP addresses in your pool. Again, this one also not usable in the companies nowadays. Port address translation. This is the method that you can see nowadays in every companies, right? So here we can use only one registered public IP address. So let's say this is our firewall, right? In my case it is firewall. When the firewall get the packet from the individual computer, then firewall forward that traffic to the internet with the one registered public IP address with the different port number for each and every individual user, right? So this port number will be selected from the firewall. This is customized port number that firewall can pick from 0 to 65,535. So the port number can be any number in between 0 to 65,535. This is what port address translation. So this is one of the cost effective solution that you can use nowadays in your companies. Okay, last feature, high availability. This is one of the redundancy feature that you can use in the ASA. So let's say for example you have one ASA and all of your organization devices are connected to this ASA and it is connected to the internet service provider, and suddenly this ASA goes down because of failure in power supply or some other problem. Then this should considered as single point of failure. So in order to prevent from this single point of failure, what you can do basically, you can use two ASAs with the active standby mode. So the active standby, it is one of the method. I am just using this method to explain to you. So active will considered as primary, standby will considered as secondary. So here there is a link in order to communicate with each other. In case if this primary ASA goes down because of some failure in the hardware, without any downtime, this secondary ASA will take the responsibility in order to route the traffic to the internet.